This video is the third part of Budget 2021. In this video, we're going to understand the third pillar, which is regarding inclusive development for Aspirational India. The first point is in the agricultural sector. Here is the list of 3 essential commodities whose minimum support price, in other words the rate at which Government of India procures these 3 items, have gone up year after year. I will quickly tell you the meaning of MSP. MSP means minimum support price. It is a system that was introduced in the country to protect the interest of the farmers in general. Under this system, even if the price of a crop falls in the market, the central government will buy that crop at a fixed MSP from the farmers so that the farmers are not going to go in losses. I've made a separate video on MSP where I have explained everything about it. I'll put the link of that video in the description. Please watch that and you'll get a fair idea about MSP. Now let's move on to the next point. The full form of SVAMITVA is Survey of Villages and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Areas. By looking at the full form, you can easily figure out that the aim of this scheme is to provide validation to the properties of people who live in rural India. If you own a property like a house, flat or a land, you do realize that in your property documents, you will have the sale deed agreement, then you will have the building approval plan, then you will have encumbrance certificate, then property tax receipt. Like that, you will also have a layout map of the property. Now this particular document will have all kinds of information with respect to your house. It is basically a blueprint. How much of land space is there on your left hand side, then your right hand side, on your front side and back side of your property. Although the internal design of the house is made by an interior designer, however, the boundary of the property, distance from nearby roads and neighboring buildings, all has to be registered with the government. In cities, almost every land is properly registered and marked by the government. But when you go to rural areas, there are large portion of land occupied by locals and these lands don't have any clear layout and demarcation. The Government of India to certain extent has information about the agricultural land, but even the large portion of rural land is still unmapped. So the Government of India wants to map these land by using drone technology and CORS, which stands for Continuously Operating Reference Station Technology. Continuously Operating Reference System is an infrastructure that can solve the problem of accuracy and real-time data acquisition. Looking at the importance and usefulness of the technology, the Survey of India has started an initiative of establishing a nationwide CORS network. Now the question is, what will the Government of India benefit from it? It will help in infrastructure planning, then revenue collection in terms of property tax. Then it will help in creating better quality Gram Panchayat development plans. Just imagine when you have a proper map of a particular location, then it helps in building infrastructures for economic development. With the help of Gram Panchayat development plans, there will be economic development and social development in rural areas. So that is how everything is connected one after another. This scheme was launched on April 24, 2020 during National Panchayati Raj Day. Now the Government of India is saying that it is going to extend this scheme to all states and union territories of India. In the beginning, this program was only functioning in 6 states: Haryana, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Now the government wants to implement this in all union territories and states. In short, with the help of this scheme, the government wants to keep a track of all the land records in rural areas with the help of certain technology. And once the government has all the land records, then the government is going to issue property cards to the respective owners of those properties. If you see, it is going to benefit the government in both ways. On one hand, the government can keep a record of revenue tax collection, and on the other hand, if you have a blueprint, then you can do economic planning more efficiently. Let's go to the next point. By looking at the words agricultural credit, you can easily figure out that credit means a certain type of loan or advance money, which is used to finance agricultural transactions. Agricultural credit is considered as one of the most basic inputs for conducting all agricultural development programs. Farmers require credit to meet their short-term needs like purchasing seeds, fertilizers, paying wages to hired workers, etc. Agricultural credit in India can be classified into 3 major types. The first one is short-term credit, which is for less than 15 months. It is used for purchasing seeds, fertilizers, paying wages to hired workers. Then the second type is medium-term credit. It ranges between 15 months and 5 years. It is used for purchasing cattle, water pumping machinery, and other agricultural equipments. And the third one is long-term credit. It is used for buying additional land or for making any permanent improvement on land, like sinking of wells, reclamation of land, horticulture, etc. Now the question is, who gives this kind of credit? There are two sources. One is non-institutional sources and the other one is institutional sources. Under non-institutional sources, you will find money lenders. It can be an individual or an organization. You can also call them financiers. Then you have traders and commission agents. Under institutional sources, you have cooperative credit societies. If you look at the word cooperative, it is basically an independent group of people who belong to same social class, and they generally come together and contribute financially for their own group's economic, social and cultural agenda. A good example in Rajasthan is the Marwadis. Marwadi have this cooperative society where they lend money to people of their own community and group at low rate of interest so that they can establish their businesses. Then there are land development banks. After that, other commercial banks like SBI, HDFC, ICICI, Axis Bank. Then there are regional rural banks. These are banks that are operating at regional level in different states of India. They have been created for the purpose of serving and uplifting rural areas of India in the field of banking and financial services. Here are some of the regional rural banks, and you will notice that these regional rural banks have a sponsor bank, which are basically public sector commercial banks. So anyhow, this is the entire story of agricultural credit in India. Now the government of India is saying that this agricultural credit will be allocated to other areas of primary sector. If you know, we have primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector and quaternary sector. Primary sector deals with agriculture. Now there are subsectors of agriculture. The first one is obviously farming, crops. Then you have animal husbandry, dairy farming, fisheries, plantation crops, horticulture crops, forestry, etc. So when we say agricultural credit, you have to understand that the credit facility is available to all these subsectors of agriculture. Please don't think it is just limited to farming. The credit facility is available to all the subsectors of agriculture. For example, the Kisan Credit Card facility, it is also available for animal husbandry and fisheries farmers. Farmer does not mean only those people who work in field and grow crops. There are fish farmers, dairy farmers. People who raise livestock are considered to practice animal husbandry. They are also called farmers. In United States, they are also called ranchers. So anyhow, you got the point. So basically the government of India is putting more emphasis on other areas of agricultural sector. Now let's go to the next point. Rural Infrastructure Development Fund to be enhanced to Rs 40,000 crore from Rs 30,000 crore. Now what is the meaning of Rural Infrastructure Development Fund? Whenever you see this fund, don't think of it as free money. It is basically a credit or loan. The central government is going to allocate certain fund which will be provided as loans. Now who will receive this fund? It is going to be given to the state and union territories governments. Why? Because all the development related work in rural areas comes directly under state government. This rural infrastructure projects typically includes rural roads, major dams and canal works for irrigation and drainage, rural housing, rural water supply, rural electrification and rural telecommunication connectivity. Basically, you can categorize all the rural infrastructure projects under three main categories. They are agricultural and related sector, social sector and rural connectivity. The money that is allocated by the central government for rural infrastructure projects are maintained by the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Then the respective state and union territories governments or state-owned corporations make use of this fund by taking it as a loan from NABARD. The loans that are issued must be repaid within 7 years in equal installments. It also has a 2 years grace period, meaning if you are unable to pay it within 7 years, more 2 years will be given. Since it is a loan, then obviously there will be interest on it. The interest amount must be paid at the end of each quarter. Now I'll put the names of those activities in the respective categories so that you can have a quick look at it. So 40,000 crore has been allocated by the central government for the development of these activities. Anyhow, I hope you have understood what Rural Infrastructure Development Fund is. Let's go to the next point. The Government of India has also decided to double the micro irrigation fund to rupees 10,000 crore. So what is micro irrigation? It is a modern method of irrigation. By this method, water is supplied to the crops through drippers, sprinklers, foggers, and by other emitters on surface or under the surface of the crops. So what happens is water is run through the pipes. These pipes will have small holes in them. Now these pipes are buried under the soil or they are laid slightly above the ground next to the crops. Water slowly drips onto the crop roots and stems. This type of irrigation is considered to be very efficient. Why? Simply because there is very less wastage of water and the evaporation rate of water is extremely low. Whereas if you look at the traditional way of irrigation, large portion of water is pumped into the crop fields. Because of that, large portion of the water is lost due to evaporation. In drip irrigation, water can be redirected specifically to the plant roots and stems. This way, there is going to be more control on water wastage. Now that you have understood what is micro irrigation, the word fund, as I said in the previous point, fund is not free money, it is basically loans. Again, I'm going to repeat what I said in the previous point. Micro irrigation comes under the agricultural sector, and agriculture comes under the state list as per the Constitution of India. That means the central government is going to provide this fund through NABARD, because NABARD is basically a government finance institution through which credit or loans are given for the development of agricultural and other economic activities in rural areas of India. So whether it is for agricultural purpose or any other infrastructure economic related activities, if it is meant for rural areas, then the state government can make use of the money allocated by the central government in the form of a loan through NABARD. Now I will quickly explain how a farmer will get this money. If you notice, to install this micro irrigation system, as a farmer, you would need pipes, sprinklers, water filters, water pressure regulators, pump, a number of valves and gauges. So all these components requires money. I believe 50% of the cost of these components will be bared by the government. You can think of it as a subsidy. I'm not sure of the exact percentage, but I believe it is somewhere around 50%. As a farmer, you also need to have a certain area of land to install drip irrigation system. Again, I believe you need a minimum of half acre or 1 acre of land. Only then you will qualify to avail the subsidy from the government. 1 acre is approximately 60% of a football ground. Anyhow, as a farmer, first you have to spend money from your own pocket to install the system. After that, a government representative is going to assess your irrigation system. Once you get the approval, only then the subsidy money will be transferred in your bank account. Any landless farmer will be left out of the scheme. So what it means is that only middle income or high income farmers can opt for this scheme. And then it is also a fact that many states like Jharkhand, Bihar, Gujarat, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, here the land records are not yet fully digitized. This also becomes a big problem. But if you go back to the second point, where we learned about SVAMITVA Scheme for mapping rural land and providing property cards. So on one hand, the government is using technology to digitize land records, especially in rural areas. And on the other hand, the government is also slowly moving towards efficient irrigation practices. See, always remember one thing. Modern technology and system takes time for making it available to the entire section of the society. You need large amount of money, efficient policies, shareholders who can bear temporary costs, and efficient implementation strategies. Only then a sustainable ecosystem can be formed. To bring innovation or create a new system, there will always be early adopters, who are the first customers to adopt a new product or technology before the majority of the population does. They are also the ones who have money. That is why you must have seen in many areas like automobiles, real estate, etc. Here the company or the organization gives some discount or reward to the early adopters for pre-booking the product. This is true with government schemes too. Government incentivizes the public to try out something new. Anyhow, you get the point. So on one hand, the government with the help of SVAMITVA scheme, digitizing rural land records and providing property cards. And on the other hand, the government is slowly moving towards efficient irrigation practices. Let's go to the next point. Operation Green scheme to be extended to 22 perishable products to boost value addition in agriculture and allied products. So what is Operation Green scheme? It is a project approved by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries with the target to stabilize the supply of tomato, onion and potato crops in India. You can also use a short form TOP crops, which indicates tomato, onion and potato. If you notice, these three crops are quite essential. You require these three crops on daily basis for all kinds of sabzi and curry. So to ensure the availability and price stability of these three crops all throughout the year, Operation Green was approved. You will also notice that from time to time you will hear an increase in prices of these three specific crops. It is because of hoarding or black marketing. Traders and middlemen, they freeze the supply of these three crops in the market for creating artificial demand. And then these crops are sold at higher price. So to avoid such hoarding, the Government of India has come up with this scheme. This scheme was first announced in the Union Budget of 2018. National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India's warehouses are going to be the place of storage for these crops. This ministry will provide 50% of the subsidy on transportation of tomato, onion, potato crops from production, that is from the farmers, to storage facilities of NAFED. If needed, the government is also going to hire more storage facilities depending on the stock. After storing the crops, the government is going to take the help of technology. There is a system called MIEWS, Market Intelligence and Early Warning System. It is a portal where the government can monitor prices of tomato, onion and potato, both in the producing location as well as in consuming location. They have a dedicated website. You can go there and have a look at the dashboard. So basically this scheme is data driven. With the help of computer data, government intervenes for controlling the supply and stabilizing the price. Now the Government of India is saying that this data-driven plan is going to be extended to more 22 perishable products. Perishable means those items that cannot be stored for a long time. For example, meat, poultry, fish, milk, eggs and raw fruits and vegetables. So 22 more products are going to be monitored through Operation Green. Again, the whole point behind Operation Green is to stabilize prices and supply of certain essential crops. With the help of technology, the Government of India has a database that contains over 4 years of historical data for tomato, onion and potato crops. Going forward, this scheme will be extended to more products. Naturally, more data would be available. The government will have better control over the agricultural market. Let's go to the next point. Around 1.68 crore farmers registered and rupees 1.14 lakh crore of trade value carried out through e-NAMs. 1,000 more mandis to be integrated with e-NAM to bring transparency and competitiveness. e-NAM is an online trading platform for agricultural commodities in India. It basically creates a network of existing mandis on an online market platform. From here, buyers, which are consumers, and sellers, which are farmers, and traders can discover better prices. So this online platform is an attempt by the Government of India to use technology in facilitating smooth marketing of farmers' produce. It was founded in the year 2016. It comes under the Ministry of Agriculture. Here is a map that shows the number of APMCs or mandis that have been integrated from different states on e-NAM platform. More mandis are being added and more farmers are being registered. Going to the next point. APMCs to get access to the agriculture infrastructure funds for augmenting infrastructure facilities. APMC stands for Agricultural Produce Market Committee. These are run by state governments. You can also call them mandi. Farmers are required to sell their produce at the mandi in their region. Traders require a license to operate within a mandi. Now the Government of India is saying that APMC mandis, it will get access to the Agricultural Infrastructure Fund for developing infrastructure. Now if you look at the Agricultural Infrastructure Fund, it is a central government scheme that provides a medium, long-term loan for projects such as building infrastructure facilities like godowns and warehouses for storing crops, cold storages, collection centers, processing units, food safety laboratories and other technological developments. In the previous point, we saw how the government is using technology, e-NAM, for creating an online marketplace. Likewise, if mandis get access to agricultural infrastructure funds, then there will be development in physical infrastructure as well. So you can see the idea of inclusive development, taking everyone together, that is your farmer, trader and buyer. Now let's move to the fisheries sector. If you notice, all these fishing harbours are around the western as well as eastern coast of India. The Government of India is saying that these major fishing harbours are going to be developed for conducting economic activities related to sea. There are 9 major fish producing centers in India. Other fish producing centers are states and cities that are based on the banks of river Ganga and its tributaries. Similarly, in North, you have to look at the places that are situated on the bank of Satluj, Ravi and Beas. In the northeastern region, the Brahmaputra river supports a rich fishery in Assam. And by the way, the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying is a newly formed ministry in India. It was formed in May 2019. As you know, recently a famous politician was not aware of it while addressing the public. Anyhow, let's go to the next point. Multipurpose Seaweed Park in Tamil Nadu to promote seaweed cultivation. Seaweed is basically a large algae. In simple words, it is a green, brown or dark red plant that grows in the sea or very close to the sea. So basically, seaweed is a plant that grows in the sea. Now there are many kinds of seaweed. Seaweed has been a part of diet in big Asian countries like China, Japan and Korea. It is not popular in India, but generally it is said that it has many health benefits. So anyhow, the government is saying that there will be a multi-purpose seaweed park in Tamil Nadu for the cultivation of seaweed. As you know that India has a long coastline of more than 7,000 kilometers. India has never taken up seaweed cultivation. Only recently, seaweed cultivation is picking up in certain coastal districts of Tamil Nadu state. As I've mentioned, seaweed is part of the diet of many foreign countries. As a result of that, there is a great demand for these resources in the international market. Seaweed cultivation has a very good prospect and it can be developed as a successful micro and small sector industry. Seaweeds are a renewable source of food, energy, chemicals and medicines. They provide valuable source of raw material for industries like health food, medicines, pharmaceuticals, textiles, fertilizers, animal feed, etc. Seaweeds are rich in minerals, vitamins and many other bioactive substances. In India, seaweeds grow abundantly along the western as well as eastern coast of India. They are also found around the 2 islands of India, Lakshadweep and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Because of their availability in abundance, there is a great potential for the development of seaweed-based industries in India. Now we'll go to the next category, migrant workers and laborers. The first point is One Nation One Ration Card. If you remember, last year around March 25th and 26th, the first lockdown in the country was announced. It was the migrant workers who were badly affected. In Hindi we call them Pravasi Mazdoor. Due to lockdown, all modes of interstate and intrastate transportations were closed. With no food and money left, thousands of migrant workers across India were seen walking and sitting on the highways. One thing that came into the limelight was that there were no proper arrangement of rations for the migrant workers. Of course, there were states that provided free rations. However, in general, there were no proper arrangements. And the reason behind that was due to the fact that if you have a ration card, you could only get your ration from your permanent place of residence. But if you work in some other state, that's where the whole problem started. Too many migrant workers did not have access to the government ration. It is from this problem, the government of India has come up with the idea of One Nation, One Ration Card, so that the beneficiary can claim ration anywhere in the country. And obviously it is going to benefit especially the migrant workers and their family members. The implementation of the scheme comes under the Department of Food and Public Distribution. And of course the government is going to take the help of technology. With the help of electronic point of sale devices, distribution of ration anywhere in the country is going to be easy. For example, when you arrive at the ration shop with your smart ration card, your data from the Aadhaar card will be linked and stored in a chip on the smart ration card. The ration shop will have an electronic point of sale device. Biometrics of the card holder will be matched with the data stored in a chip on the smart ration card to prevent any fraudulent transfer of food grains. So far, 86% of beneficiaries have been covered across 28 states and 8 union territories. By the way, I have a video on economic impacts of migrant workers. I'll put the link of that video in the description. If that topic is of some interest to you, have a look at it and let me know your thoughts. Anyways, let's go to the next point. Implementation of 4 labor codes underway. Now this topic needs a separate video. In that I can explain in full detail with the help of a flowchart. But here I'll give you a quick overview. The Ministry of Labour and Employment has finalized rules under the 4 labor codes. These 4 labor codes are with respect to wages, industrial relations, social security and occupational safety, health and working conditions. The bill has received the President's assent and the Ministry has completed the process of consultation. It will soon announce through a notification. If you see, Labour falls under the concurrent subject. So both the central government as well as the state government has the right to make laws on this subject. That means even the states are going to add more rules on these 4 labour codes. These bills are part of the government's reform in order to simplify India's labour legislation and improve the ease of trade and commerce in the nation. So anyhow, I have to make a separate video on this topic where I will explain each of the 4 labour codes in a much more detailed and comprehensive manner. Let's go to the last category of this video, financial inclusion. First of all, what is Stand Up India scheme? The objective of the Stand Up India scheme is to facilitate bank loans between 10 lakh and 1 crore to at least one scheduled caste or scheduled tribe borrower and at least one woman borrower per bank branch for setting up a greenfield enterprise. This enterprise can be in manufacturing sector, services sector and trading sector. In case there are more than one business owner, then at least 51% of the shareholding and controlling stake of the company should be held by either an SC, ST or a woman business partner. If you look at this term greenfield enterprise, I'll tell you the meaning of the word greenfield. It is a term taken from the construction industry that refers to undeveloped land, meaning there has been no work done before on that land. Similarly, in the information technology world, greenfield is a name given to an IT project that is developed from scratch rather than built from an existing program. Any project that is built from an existing program is called as brownfield enterprise. The loan money that is allocated is between 10 lakh and 1 crore. And the purpose behind this loan is to set up new enterprise in manufacturing, trading and services sector by an SC, ST and women entrepreneurs. Now this loan is to be repaid in 7 years with the maximum grace period of 18 months. All branches of scheduled commercial banks in India, which consist of more than 1 lakh branches, are there to provide this loan money. Now the government of India is saying that this scheme is also going to be extended to allied agricultural activities. So previously it was only limited to manufacturing sector, services sector and trading sector. But now it is also going to be extended to allied agricultural activities, meaning all these subsectors that comes under the agricultural sector like animal husbandry, dairy farming, fisheries, plantation crops, horticulture crops, forestry, etc. And then the government of India is also saying that the margin money requirement will be reduced to 15%. So as per this scheme, the margin money was set to 25%. And now the government is going to reduce that to 15%. Now what is margin money? Margin money is the amount that is paid by the borrower, while the rest of the amount is paid by the bank. For example, let's say your overall expenses for setting up a business is 15 lakhs. So 25% of 15 lakhs would be 3,75,000. That means this amount has to be arranged by you. And the remaining 11,25,000 will be your loan money. Now the government is saying that this 25% will be reduced to 15%. That means as a beneficiary, your contribution amount will be less. It is just a small help from the government. You anyhow have to pay the entire loan money in 7 years with maximum grace period of 18 months. By the way, this calculation is just to make you understand what is margin money. Don't take this calculation in literal sense. There will be plenty more conditions by the bank like financial assessment, how much of the loan will be working capital and term loan, then what are the collateral securities or guarantee that you will have to provide to the bank. So there are many such conditions too. But I hope overall you have understood what this scheme is all about and how it works. And the last point is Rs 15,700 crore budget allocation to MSME sector, more than double of the year 2020. In last year's budget, the MSME ministry allocated Rs 7,572 crore. This year this amount got doubled. Let me explain what is MSME sector. Government of India categorizes companies into micro enterprise, small enterprise, then medium enterprise. Together they are known as MSME sector. And then there are large businesses like Adani, Reliance, Tata, Mahindra, etc. There is another industry which is called the cottage industry. It is a business or manufacturing activity carried out in people's home. Cottage industry are both part of the formal as well as informal sector. There are small home businesses which are registered and they do pay taxes to the government, and then there are cottage industries which are not registered and do not pay any tax. Finally, there is the informal sector. It is said that almost 80 to 90% of the total workforce in India is in the informal sector. The only problem with informal sector is that the government has no control over it. and the activities of the informal sector are not included in a country's GDP or GNP. The low-income group and economically weaker section are mostly part of the informal sector. I'm not saying 100%, but mostly. Similarly, the high-income group and the middle-income group are part of the formal sector. Even here, I'm not saying 100%, because there are many people in the high-income group and middle-income group whose income is not monitored by the government. A good example is income from property. Although it is a taxable income, but many people don't show it. Many Indians don't see any clear link between paying taxes and provision of government services. That is why only tiny percentage of people in India actually pay income tax. Anyhow, so the LIG and economically weaker sections are mostly part of the informal sector. Some part of LIG people are also employed by the MSME sector as a low-wage workers. Similarly, MIG and HIG are mostly part of the formal sector. Even in this category, there are many whose sources of income are not monitored by the government. I hope you are able to follow with me. So this amount, rupees 15,700 crore, is going to be provided by the banks as well as the non-banking financial companies to the MSME sector. Non-banking financial companies, NBFC, are basically your institutions like Bajaj Finance, Cholamandalam, Mahindra Finance, Tata Capital, etc. Basically, they provide bank-like services, that is loan, credit and advances, but they are not bank. A bank lends money and it also accepts deposits. But on the other hand, a non-banking financial company only lends money. It cannot accept deposits from public. I hope you understood the difference. As I was saying, the amount of rupees 15,700 crore is going to be provided by the banks as well as the non-banking financial companies to the MSME sector. It is often said that the MSME sector is the backbone of the Indian economy. Let's say you have a business. When you take loan to increase the production. That also means you're going to hire people. That will create jobs. Always remember, the loan has to be repaid with certain interest. That means the cost of the product produced by your company will have to be more. Otherwise, how are you going to make profit? Pay back the loan with interest, then you also have to pay tax to the government. And you also have to pay salaries to your employees. Your company has to be super efficient in saving money, while it also has to make profit to survive. Due to the pandemic, the Indian economy has just started recovering from recession. Job loss is a common scenario. If not job loss, at least the salary offered is low. So as a step towards economic recovery, the budgetary allocation is going to benefit the businesses and also the government. At least that is the idea. So these were the main points that covers the third pillar, which is regarding inclusive development for Aspirational India. In the next video, I'll cover the fourth pillar.